Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 17th, 2018 meeting of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Thank you for being here with us today. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll for attendance?
Thank you, Madam President. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer present. Supervisor Kim. Kim not present. Supervisor Raphael Mandelman.
Present.
Mandelman present. Supervisor Peskin.
Present.
Peskin present. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan present. Supervisor Safai. Safai not present. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie present. Supervisor Tang. Tang present. Supervisor Yee. Yee not present. Supervisor Valley Brown.
Present.
Valley Brown present. Supervisor Cohen.
Here.
Cohen present. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you please rise, place your right hand over your heart, and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
Yes, Madam President. Although these are well-known facts by now, it's important to state for the board's record for future researchers. So please bear with me, and I ask the audience to hold their applause until the very end of this statement. On July 10th, 2018, this Board of Supervisors declared the June 5th, 2018 election results, signed that same day by former Mayor Mark Farrell, certifying the candidate for member of the Board of Supervisors representing District 8, Supervisor Raphael Mandelman, and now Honorable Mayor London Breed for the City and County of San Francisco, that both received a plurality of votes cast at that election. Appropriately, we received resignation letters from former District 8 Supervisor Jeff Sheehy and the District 5 Supervisor, again now Mayor London Breed, before leaving to the executive branch. Additionally, to fill the vacancy in District 5, Mayor London Breed has appointed Valley Brown to serve as the District 5 Supervisor. And finally, I am confirming that our two newest board members have been officially sworn in, are both bonded as required by the San Francisco Administrative Code, and are prepared to vote at today's meeting. So, Madam President, please join.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'd like to give Supervisors Brown and Supervisor Mandelman a few moments to make remarks, and we will start with Supervisor Brown. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
I have that too.
Okay. Oh.
No.
Right. How's that?
Yes.
Much better.
Okay. I'm going to make it short, but just because I've listened to a lot of these and long.
That's this, right?
But anyway, thank you, Mayor Breed. And thank you, my fellow board members. First, Mayor Breed, thank you for appointing me. It's a privilege and an honor to serve the District 5 residents. I'm excited to be on this team of the Board of Supervisors of San Francisco, working to make better lives of San Francisco everywhere. Residents of D5, my door is always open, and I'm ready to listen. Look for me in your neighborhoods, your business corridors, your parks, your schools, your senior centers, your bus stops. I'll be there to listen to your concerns, your ideas, to make a better, livable district and city. I'm your voice at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome. Supervisor Mandelman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and I'm going to start with just a whole bunch of thank yous to so many people, starting with you, President Cohen, for your incredible graciousness last week in allowing us to use this chamber for my swearing in and in hosting our reception in your office afterwards. And all of my colleagues, all of you have been so incredibly gracious, including some of the moms, Catherine, Stephanie, and Sandy Fewer, who brought food by the office, and to everyone who's just been so incredibly gracious and welcoming. And of course, the mayor, your staff has been coming by and introducing themselves, and we have appreciated that, and I look forward to getting to know them better and working with them. And to our city clerk, Angela Calvillo, who've just been so wonderful to us, and your staff, as I know, gone above and beyond. So, and everybody in this building has been so wonderful to us. And then, of course, I want to thank Kyle Smealy and Tom Temprano and Aaron Mundy for doing such amazing work over the last week to get us up and going. And I want to thank my predecessor, Supervisor Sheehy, for his decades of service to our community. I look forward to continuing to work with him in the future on the issues that we both care about. I want to congratulate my new colleague. I'm really glad you're here, so I'm no longer the junior member of the board. This is an auspicious and exciting time to be joining this Board of Supervisors. We have a new mayor, we have a new board president, 2 new members of the board, and I think it can be daunting to think about all the challenges facing the city and all the hardships facing the country and the world, but this is a wonderful place, and we have so much talent in this city, human talent, financial resources. If there is any American city that can offer real solutions to homelessness, that can build and preserve the affordable housing we need to maintain a diverse and dynamic city and to update our transit infrastructure for a growing 21st century city, I think it is this one, and I'm excited to do that work, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you on that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and on behalf of the board, we want to welcome you both joining us. Colleagues, are there any other changes to the June 12, 2018 board meeting minutes? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Motion made by Supervisor Yee, seconded by Supervisor Tang. Without objection, the June 12, 2018 minutes are approved once we complete public comment. All right. Madam Clerk, please read the 2 p.m. special order.
Thank you, Madam President. The special order at 2 p.m. is the appearance by the Honorable Mayor London Breed. There being no questions submitted from the eligible supervisors representing districts 5, 6, 7, or 8, the mayor may address the board for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Welcome back to the chamber.
I feel like I was just here yesterday. But thank you, President Cohen, and thank you to members of the Board of Supervisors. Congratulations to the newest members of the board, Supervisor Brown, no relation to Miss Brown, and Supervisor Raphael Mandelman. I'm sure you both will do an amazing job on behalf of your constituents and the city, so welcome to the board. I know firsthand what an honor it is to serve, and again, it feels like I was just here yesterday, and I look forward to really working with all of you to tackle many pressing challenges that we need to deal with. In fact, Supervisor Mandelman and I have already started. Just a few weeks ago, we traveled to Sacramento to testify in support of Senate Bill 1045, which expands our conservatorship programs, providing us additional tools to help those who are struggling with severe mental illness and substance abuse. What we see happening on our streets every single day is unacceptable. We have people who are struggling, not able to care for themselves, and in some cases are dying right before us. And it is inhumane. It is not compassion to just allow people to die on our streets or cycle in and out of our jails because our current laws don't allow people to get the help that we know they need. We must do more, and SB 1045 is an important step in helping us ensure that we can help our most vulnerable residents live a healthy and stable life where they are housed for the long term. I'm committed to reforming our mental health system here in San Francisco, and I want to thank Supervisor Mandelman for his early support on this very important issue. I truly believe this is just the beginning of a long partnership in trying to address this and many other challenging issues. I also want to welcome, again, Supervisor Brown to the chamber. District 5 is the place I've called home my entire life, and I've seen firsthand many of the changes that have taken place all across the district, ensuring that all of our district's neighborhoods, from the Western Addition to Hayes Valley to Japantown to the Inner Sunset, and many other communities have a strong voice here on the board. It's not just personal to me, it's critical that the residents have the support they need, and I know that they will have that in Supervisor Brown. And I'm proud that she's joined their board. I know she's ready to roll up her sleeves and get to work collaboratively with all of you. And many of you, I'm sure, remember her time here on the board working for the 2 previous supervisors for District 5. And so I'm sure it feels as though she's very familiar to all of you. During this first week, my administration has spent time working on some of these very pressing issues. Last week, we took a walk through Supervisor Kim's district and the Tenderloin, and today we spend some time out in a tent encampment looking at the problem directly, bringing out many of our city team members, and just trying to get a better handle on some of the challenges that we know people talk about on a regular basis. We know that the conditions on our street is completely unacceptable, and letting our sidewalks be the answer to our housing affordability crises is not just unacceptable, it's inhumane. So what I saw today when I toured one of the tent encampments along King Street were really people who need help. And I am grateful to Jeff Kaczynski, Mohammed Nuru, and Chief Bill Scott for working together to get those people that were out there directly into services and transferred into navigation centers and clearing out and cleaning up that particular encampment. I also had a chance to talk to many of the residents there who actually live in affordable housing, who struggled with homelessness themselves. You know, it can work, but we also have to consistently stay on top of the issue and move things forward and provide an alternative other than our streets. This is why, following the failure of Proposition D in June, in partnership with President Cohen, I took swift action to restore the $40 million in critical homelessness and housing investment that were left unfunded. We need to do everything we can to keep people housed, but making sure that people who are struggling with homelessness get housed. And that is why I want to make sure that here in San Francisco, we make the right investments and we build more housing and we build more housing faster. And I have a whole lot of other things to say, but my time is running out on the clock. And now I know how members of the public feel. So I want to apologize for cutting you off at that 3 minutes, but it's only to be fair. It is exciting to be back here at the chambers, and I am truly looking forward to continuing our work together. Nothing is more important to me than making sure that we address what we know are serious challenges on our streets in San Francisco, and I am looking forward to working with each and every one of you to do just that. Thank you for having me here today.
All right, thank you very much for being here. So colleagues, in the future there'll be an opportunity for question and answer back and forth, but because there were no topics that were submitted, we will not be having a back and forth question time, but next September, when we return after our recess, we will have an opportunity to have an engaging conversation with our mayor.
And let me also add that my door is always open, so if you would like to schedule a meeting or need to meet with me last minute, I am available to members of the board for that purpose. So thank you, President Cohen, for this opportunity.
Of course. All right, thank you, Mayor Breed. Thank you for joining us. So colleagues, since there are no topics submitted to the Office of the Clerk, we are going to move on. Madam Clerk, please call the consent agenda.
Madam President, I will just add that if members of the public would like to comment on the mayor's appearance today, they can do so during general public comment. Okay. Items 1 through 3 are on consent. These items are considered routine. If a member objects, an item may be removed and considered separately.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Did you call items 1 through 3?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay. So colleagues, would any members like to sever items 1 through 3? Supervisor Mandelman, I see your name on the roster.
Yes, I would like to sever items 2 and 3. These two ordinances are implementing a settlement agreement which will be coming to the board, I believe, on July 31st, and so I would like to sever them and continue it too much.
Thank you, Supervisor Mandelman. I will re-refer to you, and you will be able to talk on the reasons why. So, just so that we're able to keep moving forward, Madam Clerk, on the question of shall items 1 be passed, please call the roll.
Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Mandelman. Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai?
Aye.
Safai, aye. Supervisor Stephanie? Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yi?
Aye.
Yi, aye. Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Brown, aye. Supervisor Cohen?
Aye.
Cohen, aye. There are
All
11
right.
ayes.
Thank you. This ordinance shall be finally passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items 2 and 3.
Item 2 amends the planning code by revising zoning map sheet ZN06 to rezone assessor's parcel block number AB 2719C, lot number 023, located at Burnett Avenue and Burnett Avenue North from public to residential mixed districts, low density, RM-1, rezoning a portion of Burnett Avenue North generally bounded by AB 2745, lot number 036, and AB 2719C, lot number 023, to RM1, to affirm the Planning Department's determination and to make the appropriate findings. Item 3 orders the summary street vacation of a portion of Burnett Avenue North generally bounded by assessor's parcel block number 2719C, 2745, and Burnett Avenue, subject to specified conditions, and to also affirm the CEQA determination and to adopt the appropriate findings.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to recognize Supervisor Mandelman.
Okay, I'll try again. I'd like to move to continue these two items to July 31st so that they can be heard at the same time as the settlement that they are implementing.
All right, thank you very much. Colleagues, can we take this motion, same house, same
Madam
call?
President,
Oh, yes.
a
Oh, I'm sorry,
second.
Supervisor Ronan. Seconded by Supervisor Ronan. Thank you for that motion. So colleagues, Supervisor Mandelman has made a motion. It's been continued to continue items 2 and 3 until July 31st. And we have been seconded by Supervisor Ronan. So colleagues, I'd like to take that motion, same house, same call, without objection. And without objection, we continue items 2 and 3 to the meeting of July 31st, and it passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, could we go to the regular agenda?
Yes, item 4 is an ordinance to amend the planning code to eliminate discretionary review hearings for projects that contain 100% affordable housing upon delegation by the Planning Commission to provide the Planning Department review of large projects located in the C3, the downtown commercial districts, and for certain minor alterations to historical landmarks and in conservation districts, to consolidate, standardize, and streamline notification requirements and procedures to include newspaper notice in residential, commercial, and mixed-use districts, and to affirm the CEQA determination and to make the appropriate findings.
All right, colleagues, can we take this same house, same call? All right, same house, same call. Ordinance finally passed. Madam Clerk, let's turn to new committee business. Please call items 5 through 20 together.
Thank you, Madam President. These items are being called together as they comprise the budget for the City and County of San Francisco. Items 5 and 6 approve the budget and appropriation ordinance to appropriate all estimated receipts and expenditures for departments of the City and County of San Francisco as of June 1st, 2018, for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2019 and June 30th, 2020. Item 6 is the annual salary ordinance to enumerate positions in the annual budget and appropriation ordinance for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2019 and June 30th, 2020. Item 7 is the ordinance to deappropriate $800,000 from District 7, 8, and 10 board projects in general city responsibility and appropriating $800,000 to various departments to support Districts 7, 8, and 10 participatory budgeting projects in fiscal years 2017 through 18. Item 8 adopts the Neighborhood Beautification and Graffiti Cleanup Fund Tax designation ceiling for tax year 2018. Item 9 amends the administrative code to allow the Planning Department to use the proceeds in the Planning Code Enforcement Fund for all Planning Code enforcement activities. Item 10 amends the administrative code to increase the balance of the District Attorney's revolving fund to approximately $2,000. Item 11 amends the Health Code to set patient rates and rates of other services provided by the Department of Public Health beginning July 1st, 2018 for fiscal years 2018, 2019, and 2019 through 2020 through June 30th, 2020, and to revise certain substance use disorder treatment services and to increase patient rates charged for those substance use disorder treatment services retroactive to July 1st, 2017. Item 12 amends the administrative code to reclassify the Mayor's Fund for the Homeless as a Category 2 Fund 8 to permit the accumulation of interest, to receive grants, gifts, and bequests of money, to transfer the administration of the navigation partnerships from the Mayor's Office to the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing. Item 13 approves the budget of the Treasure Island Development Authority for fiscal years 2018 through 2020. Item 14 approves the fiscal 18 through 2019 budget of the Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure and approves the issuance by the Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure of bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $143 million. Item 15 is a resolution to concur with the Comptroller's establishment of the Consumer Price Index for 2018 and to adjust the access line tax by the same rate. Item 16 is a resolution to concur with the Comptroller's certification that services previously approved can be performed by private contractor for specific services at a lower cost than similar work performed by city and county employees. Item 17 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the Office of the District Attorney to accept an expended $2.2 million grant from the California Victim Compensation Board for a project entitled Joint Powers Agreement through June 30th, 2021. Item 18 is a resolution to authorize the Director of Health to sign a California Mental Health Services Authority participation agreement to facilitate the transfer of funds to cover San Francisco's obligation to pay for mental health treatment for San Francisco foster children placed out of county as required by the California Welfare and Institutions Code. Item 19 is a resolution to authorize the acceptance and expenditure of state grant funds by the San Francisco Department of Public Health for fiscal year 18 through 19. And item 20 is a resolution to approve the fiscal years 2018 through 2020 expenditure plans for the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing Fund.
Whew, that was a mouthful. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I appreciate that. I see there are two names on the rosters. First, we will hear from Supervisor Stephanie, followed by Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, President Cohen. I'd like to move to continue items 5 and 6 and 8 through 20 to the next board meeting on July 24th. This continuance would match the budget calendar published 6 months ago.
All right, thank you. Is there a second on that motion? Second by Supervisor Safai, or motion, yeah, Supervisor Safai. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? All right. Without objection, this item will be continued to 1 week's time. Supervisor Yee? Supervisor Yee?
Can I have clarification before I
Sure.
make a motion? Was the intent for items 5 through 20 to could be continued?
Supervisor, if I could answer, the motion was for items 5 and 6, and then excluding items 7 because you had severed it.
I didn't sever it yet, but okay, I just want to sever item 7 to be voted on today.
Okay. Would you like to speak to that?
Sure. I think most of the items that were asked to be continued, it has something to do with the new budget, and this is actually an old budget item from last year's budget, and we're just waiting for the expenditure appropriation, the appropriation of the expenditures for participatory budgeting for District 7, 8, and 10 for the year of 17-18. So it has nothing to do with next year's budget.
Thank you very much. So, Madam Clerk, I just want to make sure that we have the record accurately reflecting on what we're doing here. Supervisor Stephanie made a motion to continue items 5 and 6, as well as 8 through 20, and we took that without objection.
That is correct,
Right,
Madam
and
President.
then Supervisor Yee has made a request for us to sever item 7 and move item 7 forward.
Just need to call the roll on item 7, Madam President.
Yes, please call the roll.
On item 7, Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Mandelman. Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Brown. Brown, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. There are 11 ayes.
All right, without objection, this item moves forward unanimously. Thank you. Colleagues, Madam Clerk, could please call the next item.
Item 21 is an ordinance to amend the planning code regarding accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, to authorize expansion within the buildable area, to authorize the zoning administrator to waive and modify bicycle parking requirements, to allow more than one unauthorized unit constructed without a permit to be legalized, to exempt from the permit notification requirement ADUs constructed within the defined existing built envelope, to allow conversion of an existing standalone garage, storage structure, or other auxiliary structure to an ADU, and expansion of the existing building envelope to add dormers, and to allow payment of an in lieu fee for an ADU's street tree requirement, to affirm the department's CEQA determination, and to adopt the appropriate findings.
Thank you. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much, colleagues. By now, my amazing staff, Menika Mohan, has briefed probably all of you about ADUs. We've talked your ear off about this, but this is a piece of legislation where really we're trying to figure out how it is that we could better streamline our city's processes to allow people to build more accessory dwelling units, which I consider, and many of you probably consider, a more affordable way to add more housing units to San Francisco. So I definitely want to thank Menika Mohan from my office, as well as Marcel Boudreau and Kimia Hadadan from Planning Department for their hard work on this. We heard over time through the committee process several changes that committee members wanted to make. So today I'm offering a couple of amendments, which you should have in front of you by now. One is that regarding the street tree requirement, it wasn't actually noticed properly in the Land Use Committee, so I just wanted to let you know that we are severing that portion out and sending that part in itself back to Land Use Committee. The second amendment has to do with dormers, and we wanted to make sure that there is still notification procedures in place if the dormers have to do with historic structures or any building that might contribute to a historic district. The third amendment has to do with mandating a pre-application meeting for adjacent neighbors if someone is trying to fill under and create an ADU under a cantilevered room or a deck. The next amendment is that originally we were going to allow more than one unauthorized unit to be permitted if it meets code requirements. We've heard some concerns about that, and so we are going to revert back to what is already allowed, which is just that one unauthorized unit can be legalized. The next amendment is that, I'm going to let Supervisor Peskin go to that one. And then we are we're clearing up a typo that happened in Land Use Committee about allowing expansion of ADUs within the buildable envelope. So you have that language with you in our summary sheet on page 7. And we are also limiting the height of the expansion into the buildable envelope of an ADU to the existing building height. So those are, in summary, the amendments that I'm planning to make today at the full board to the ADU legislation. And I'll let Supervisor Peskin speak to the other one.
Thank you. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President, and I just want to start by thanking Supervisor Tang for her work on sharpening this legislation that has evolved over a long period of time. I think when we did ADU legislation last year, I remarked that a decade ago it was impossible and could not be passed at the Board of Supervisors, so a lot has changed. And as to the specific amendment, at page 18, lines 24 through 25, and I've passed this out to all of you, I would like that paragraph to read, for unauthorized units, this conditional use authorization will not be required for removal if the zoning administrator has determined in writing that the unit cannot be legalized under any applicable provision of this code. And on page 19, lines 19 through 20, we would delete subsection A, whether the unauthorized unit or units are eligible for legalization under section 207.3 of this code would be deleted.
Is that it, Supervisor Peskin?
That is, yes, as Deputy City Attorney, that is the motion.
All right, thank you very much. Supervisor Safai?
Can I speak after the motion?
Sure. Supervisor Kim, did you want to speak to the motion, or did you want to? Supervisor Kim, do you want to speak? Okay. Not to the motion. All right. All right, a motion has been made to make amendments to the item 21. Is there a second to that motion? Second.
I'm happy.
Supervisor Peskin?
I'm happy to second Supervisor Tang's motion.
All right. So Supervisor Supervisor Tang will second Supervisor Peskin's motion, and Supervisor Peskin will second Supervisor Tang's motion. Colleagues, if there's no discussion, can we take that without objection? All right, without objection. Thank you. All right, colleagues, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, okay. Supervisor Tang, did you make a motion to duplicate the file? Are you planning on doing that?
Yes, I would like to duplicate the file to sever out the portion just about the street tree approvals. And I think that was wrapped in that whole set that I spoke
That
of.
was part of the motion.
Okay. Supervisor Safai?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. First of all, I want to say I really appreciate Supervisor Tang's leadership and all the hard work that she's put in on this. Thank you to Supervisor Peskin for clarifying about the unauthorized units. I think that's important. I do want to just highlight one point that we had a discussion about in the Land Use Committee. It is not in this legislation. It was removed, but it was the conversation about new construction and how this would impact new construction and the ability to have an ADU in new construction. There was some conversation at the Planning Commission. There was some reservation and fear about encouraging demolition. But I wanted to say that I think that with further conversation, I know we might be able to follow this up in the coming months, but I think we need to have a conversation about the ability to work with ADUs in new construction only, not somewhere that there has been demolition, but where there is new construction within the legal limits and the abilities. And I understand that there's some concerns about monster homes. I share those as well. Myself and President Cohen dealt with a over-the-counter permit abuse situation that a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home had morphed into a 14-bedroom, 10-bath home. We were able to work with the Planning Commission. They stopped that and made that reasonable. So I think within the legal limits of the law that we have now, I think we can control for overly expanded units and monster homes, but at the same time think about the ability to put ADUs into new construction. So I just wanted to say I appreciate Supervisor Tang for trying to push the envelope on that. I think there's further conversation to be had and clarification and separation between demolition and new construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Kim.
I just want to acknowledge the work that Supervisor Tang and our office has put into this ordinance and really just underline how important it is for us to develop an accessory dwelling unit program that is workable and that single-family homeowners and multi-unit building owners feel that they can move through the process. I think as units, particularly in my district, are climbing to close to $800,000 per door, ADUs are increasingly going to become the more affordable way for us to increase our housing capacity here in San Francisco and throughout the Bay Area. Since the ADU program started, I think that there were hopes that more ADUs would have been built up to this point, and I just think that it's important that we continue to refine and improve this program so that it is one that everyday homeowners can actually take on. It's going to double the capacity in our single-family home neighborhoods throughout San Francisco. It's going to build housing more cheaply and more quickly than all the multi-unit buildings in the district that I represent. So I just wanted to thank Supervisor Tang and her office for the time that they spent on these listening sessions in terms of improving the process so that our everyday homeowners can be part of addressing the housing crisis and also increase the value of their parcels and their homes as well. So I thought it was a very thoughtful legislation. I look forward to the ongoing discussion and development of this program. I also really want to encourage all of our various departments, and I know that that's included in this ordinance, in really working together to create an aligned program. So the planning department, the fire department, in particular, in making sure that we're trying to make it easier for people to build these types of units and not creating a heavily discretion-oriented program where certain units move forward and others don't. It just makes it very complicated. I think these are not large developers, again, like in the district that I represent. But I really hope that we create better coordination as this program continues to move forward, and would love to add my name as a co-sponsor.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Tang, any last-minute remarks? All right. So, colleagues, Supervisor Tang has made a motion to send the duplicated file back to committee. And what I'd like to do is see if we can take the balance of this item as amended. Can we take that same House, same call? All right. Thank you very much. This ordinance passed on first reading. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I see that it is 2:30.
Madam President?
Yes.
We have Supervisor Tang's duplicated item, which you indicated she'd like to send to committee. It requires a second and a vote, or without objection.
Okay. Seconded by Supervisor Ronan, and we can take that without objection. All right, thank you. This ordinance passes on first.
Madam President.
Deputy City Attorney.
Deputy City Attorney John Gibner. So the duplicated file has been amended by the board to remove all the content except for the street tree and Luffy. I believe that was Supervisor Tang's motion. All right, thanks.
All right, colleagues.
That is correct.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Tang. And we can take this same house, same call. All right, now, Madam Clerk, it's 2:30. Let's go to the recognition of commendations, please.
I believe Supervisor Peskin.
Yes, Supervisor Peskin, and followed by Supervisor Ronan. Mr. Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President, colleagues. Today, it is really my honor to commend and acknowledge the incredible work of Officer Joshua Olson. I think you all will recall a few weeks ago on Friday, June 29th, Central Station responded to an incident where a distraught individual was sitting on the ledge of a high-rise building on California Street by Nob Hill, threatening to jump. And seeing that the individual was agitated by some police officers' presence, the police sent negotiating officer Joshua Olson to the scene. And after 2.5 incredible hours of talking to him, Officer Olson was able to convince that individual to come down, not kill himself, and receive mental health care. And the pictures that Captain Yep sent me during that were really remarkable. I want to thank you, Captain, for keeping me apprised during that period of time. So I just wanted to, I asked Captain Yep about Officer Olson, and he informed me that he was born and raised here in the city, served in the United States Army for 7 years, and after graduating the Fish and Game Academy at Napa College, joined the Contra Costa Sheriff's Department in 1995. 4 years later, we got him here at the SFPD, where he has been ever since, working at Southern, Ingleside, Bayview, Northern, and on the bikes, and in the last 4 years has been showing his prowess by serving in the hostage crisis negotiating team. And the team can be called into any possible situation, whether it involves a barricaded suspect, actual hostages, or a person, as in this case, suffering from a mental health crisis. Members of the team undergo extra training and annual recertification to maintain the mental stamina needed to handle really stressful situations like this one that can take hours to resolve. And members like Officer Olson are able to utilize their skills to figure out the situation and get it done peacefully so that nobody gets hurt. And as our city continues to adjust public safety and support people with mental health issues, it truly is my honor, our honor, to recognize Officer Olson for his service and outstanding work. So in recognition of your response, your compassion, and professionalism, I wanted to give you, Officer, the opportunity to come up and address the board and thank you for your incredible work that day and every day, and acknowledge Captain Yep and Deputy Chief Mannix and others who are here. Thank you for being here. Come on up, officer. Thank you.
Just wanted to say thank you for the acknowledgement, and whenever we respond to one of these incidents, it's never just the individual, it's always a team, and so everything we do is a team effort. So I just wanted to thank you for the commendation and everybody on the Board of Supervisors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Officer Olson. All right, thank you very much, Officer Joshua Olson. I want to recognize our next colleague, Supervisor Hillary Ronan. She's got a special commendation that she'd like to share with us today.
Thank you so much. And I know Some of my colleagues, Supervisor Kim and some others, would like to speak as well. Today, I am going to present a certificate to the family, specifically Cassandra Gutierrez and Elias. If you want to come up here to the microphone, if you want to come up
Any
and stand
microphone
right there.
will work.
Yes, thank you. I'm presenting this posthumously. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that word. To their father, Carlos Francisco Gutierrez, who was a beloved friend, leader, and member of the mission community. I have some prepared remarks about Carlos's life, but I just wanted to share some personal remarks before I read some details about his life. Carlos was a good friend of mine. He actually, in recent years, was my neighbor and lived around the block from me. And when I found out that he passed away on Sunday, between then and now, I have learned so much about him that I didn't even know. I learned he was a Teamster and talked to Rudy Gonzalez, who told me that he was one of their best organizers they ever had, and that he brought all of the young people into their contract fight for one of their best achievements. I found out he was on the board of directors of Jobs with Justice. I didn't know that either, although after I found out he was a Teamster, it made so much sense. Of course, Carlos not only spent his life fighting for racial justice, fighting against violence and for peace in his community, but of course he fought for economic justice as well, because he saw the interconnections in all of those struggles, and so it quickly made sense. And then he didn't just fight for economic justice through the union movement, but then he realized he could bridge the gap between labor and community. And what better place to do that than at Jobs with Justice, where he could bring those two powerful forces together to fight for the San Francisco that he cared about so much. And then I learned that he not only meant so much to all his homies and the mission that he grew up with, that he spent his life with, to his mom, to his kids, to his fiance, but he meant so much to all of these old labor and white lefties in the community, these people who were in the Communist Party who met him and fell in love, because that's the impact that he had on people. And being one of those white lefties that comes from the labor movement, I know why. When I first met Carlos and became close to him, I don't know about you in the room, but whenever I go someplace and he was there, I would just let down my guard a little. I'd let down a wall. I felt safe with him in a room because he was genuine. And I know that he didn't have any pretense. He wasn't being fake. He wasn't kissing my ass. He was being him, and him and I agreed and shared our politics and our love for community. And so I felt like I could let one of those walls down and I could relax with Carlos, because that's who he was. I don't know that any of us have really faced this fully yet, because it's such an absolute shock to us all. It's a loss that's so great and so tremendous that I think it's going to take a very, very, very long time for us to process it and to grieve it and to lift each other up and carry each other through. But I just wanted you, Cassandra, and Elias to know that so many of us are going to watch out for you for the rest of your lives. You've got a whole room full of people right here, including me, who love you and who are going...
love you so much.
I love you so much, and who are going to protect you and are going to do what your dad did for you guys. Not half as well, not even close to as well, but we're gonna we're going to be there for you because we know that that's what he would want, and we're going to be there. I'm just going to read a few things about his life that I felt like I had to speak from the heart because this is a hard one. It is with great sadness that I offer a certificate of honor in memory of Carlos Gutierrez, a determined and heart-centered mission warrior. Carlos lived a strong commitment to building up communities of color, especially San Francisco natives. Countless generations will undoubtedly remember him for the lives he helped transform as co-founder and staff of HOMI. HOMI's organizing the mission to empower youth. Carlos was born and raised in the mission. He attended Horace Mann Middle School, International Studies Academy, and McTier High School. He had an amazing life story. In fact, I'm trying to get KQED to profile him because it's that inspiring. He faced great adversity in his childhood. He became involved in a gang and spent time in juvenile hall. When he was 16 years old, he became a father and started to reflect upon his life more deeply. You changed him from the get-go, Cassandra. He was determined to be the best father he could be, and during the year he spent on house arrest, he began to turn his life around. He decided to move to Sonoma to focus on his family and his future. Carlos took the opportunity to focus on his studies, and he earned a BA from Sonoma State University. During that time, he also helped raise his children, Cassandra and Elias. It is a testimony to Carlos's unquenchable spirit that he was able to transform his life of struggle and adversity into co-founding HOMI. He was an extraordinary community organizer with a clear vision for leadership and community development. Through his compassion and outreach, Carlos connected with youth in the communities, in the schools, on the streets, and in the jails. He delivered resources that would empower them. Last year, HOMI served over 300 people, youth, and adults through its program, and it's set to grow by leaps and bounds this year as well with a bunch of new programs that we're really excited about that he helped formulate. He was deeply proud of his Chicano heritage. Carlos was passionate about connecting the youth to their ancestral cultural roots. Carlos believed that one's cultura could serve as a form of self-awareness and empowerment. His legacy will live on through literally the hundreds of lives that he helped transform, and especially the at-risk youth and young adults that he inspired to choose a path of education, self-sufficiency, and peace, but to also strive towards stability in their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Carlos exuded kindness, determination, and love. He had an incredible ability to uplift and brighten the spirits of everyone he encountered. He was deeply devoted to his family. I met so many of them. I see his aunt here and his mom and his fiance. Many of you are here today, and just please know that our condolences and our love are with each and every one of you. Carlos brought so much love to his community. His spirit will stay alive in our streets and in our hearts for generations. Rest in peace and power, Carlos. We love you. And before I turn it over to his children, I just wanted to note that the education of his children was one of Carlos's biggest priorities and concerns, and we are creating a fund that his mother is administrating to help his children continue their dreams and their education. And so please contact my office if you are interested in donating that fund, and we'll get the address to you. And with that, I wanted to turn it over to Supervisor Kim.
I just wanted to add my words to Supervisor Ronan, who so eloquently spoke about Carlos. I first met Carlos as a youth organizer at Chinatown Community Development Center when he was at HOMI. And Carlos was always that bright light and energy in the almost 15 years that I've known him. And what I appreciated so much about Carlos was not just his passion and energy, but also his vision. He not only worked at HOMI and was a member of the Teamsters and Jobs with Justice, he's actually one of the rare individuals that managed to straddle both community and labor, which is actually, we cannot take that for granted. And often there are silos between these two communities. But he understood the importance of bringing these two movements together, communities of color on the streets and labor as well, if we are going to truly empower our communities to the next stage and the next level. He was committed to working with youth, fighting for his community against gentrification and working on the front lines against youth and gang violence. And he was a peacemaker, not just in the Mission, but in the South of Market as well. And I still remember visiting him on his second floor in the homie's office on Mission Street in Soma. He's printed T-shirts for me for my program and different campaigns. And I think this was just a shock to all of us. So on behalf of not just myself, but my entire team, including Bobby Lopez and John Jacobo, who also know Carlos so well, I want to send my wishes and rest in power, Carlos.
Thank you. Cassandra, I think if you'd like to say a couple words, you're welcome.
I would like to wear my father's jacket at the moment.
Speaking to the mic.
Apologize. Thank you. Wore this jacket, proud of it. He liked his bomber.
We can't hear you. Just speak into the microphone.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you.
He loved his jacket, so I feel like it's still part of me. I like to steal his clothes anyway, and do it to Ellie as well, all the time, for the rest of my life. So, my father devoted his life to the service of humanity. He did not want recognition. He did not want praise. He just wanted to be acknowledged that he was doing this work, that he was taking action. And I always remember him telling me all the time, I'm laying on the couch doing nothing. What you doing with your life? At least I'm doing the work. And this would frustrate me, not because it was like a threat, like a frustration towards him. It was a frustration at me that I wasn't doing enough. He was tough on us, and he loved us like that. And he was right. No matter how much I disagreed with that, he was right. And, I know he firmly raised me to be a strong and decolonized Chicanista, and I would not be standing here today if I didn't believe that. And I would not be standing here today if he was wrong. And at this moment, I feel my father's presence. I know he would appreciate all of you coming out here, reaching out to his familia. He loved all of you. Even the people who did not like him, they hated him. He loved them too. And he tried to make it work so hard, He loved you with every fiber of his being, and he guided and protected us, And he tried to be the best person he could be. And I think he did. I think he honestly wanted to be a better person, no matter what it was or what he did wrong. And moving forward, I encourage anyone to reach out to my brother and I. Even if you didn't know my pops, still come up to us. I love meeting people. I love networking. I'm always happy to hear your stories of I heard about him, but I don't know him. That's fine. I would love to reach out to you guys, I'm so happy that he introduced this life of politics, of community building to me, because that's what he built us out of nothing. He was a 16-year-old single parent, And he knew he loved him, and someday I hope to return that back to the community. I want you to build me up as well. He did it. He had his elders and people who guided him. But I want to follow that similar path and give back to the community in some way in the long term. I'm ready. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I don't necessarily have anything prepared. For the past 2 days, I've been just freestyling and just
Please speak directly into the microphone.
I've been just saying what comes to me. And growing up, I wanted to be like my dad. He was my role model. He was my hero. That was in a time where he wasn't necessarily doing the best. But as I grew, he grew with me. And there was a lot of trial and error in terms of parenting. And he was stubborn, and sometimes he had a big pride and a big ego, and this led to a lot of arguments. But I know that he tried his best, and as a parent, that's all you can do is try your best. And I think he raised me well, and I've turned out somewhat good. His biggest thing, he always wanted me to go to college. That was his biggest thing, and he put me into a position, and made sure I had the available tools, and now I'm looking to go to a college I'm planning to apply this fall. And I love my dad, and I miss him. That was my best friend, my partner, and he was just so knowledgeable. And I've said this already many times, but I can confidently say he's the smartest person I've ever known, because he just knew everything you needed: dating advice, knowledge about the streets, academics he could help you with. And I'm proud of him because he did everything he said he would. And to be here and to be honoring my dad, it's amazing. I didn't realize how much he actually meant to everyone. I knew how much he meant to me. So thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the
Thank you. Thank you. If you're here for Carlos, can you please stand up? If you're here for Carlos, can you please stand up? And on the count of 3, can we say Carlos presente? 1. Presente!
Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I just want to extend our deepest, most heartfelt condolences to the family as they grieve their loss of their loved one. And to his children, we love you, and Carlos' spirit lives within you. All right, Madam Clerk, let's continue with the agenda. Could you please call item 22?
Item 22 is an ordinance to amend the planning code to amend the Housing Opportunities Mean Equity San Francisco program to revise the amount of inclusionary housing required and the types of development bonuses received for projects with complete environmental evaluation applications submitted on or before December 31st, 2019, with existing requirements and bonuses revived for projects with complete environmental evaluation applications submitted on or after January 1st, 2020, and to require project authorization under Planning Code Section 328 to revise the 100% affordable housing bonus program, to eliminate a Planning Commission review hearing for 100% affordable housing projects upon delegation by the Planning Commission, and to affirm the department's CEQA determination and to make the appropriate findings.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. So it's been about a year since this board has passed Home SF. Definitely want to thank the Planning Department, especially Paolo Ikezoe and Menica Mohan, who was at Planning Department at that time and now in my office, for trying to get that voluntary program passed here in San Francisco to incentivize more both middle-income housing as well as family-size unit housing projects, and especially in neighborhoods such as District 4 and others where we haven't seen a whole lot of development take place in recent years. Since the passage of Home SF, we have found that many project sponsors have opted to either build projects under the state density bonus law, which is far more generous and doesn't have nearly as many requirements. And so, of course, you can understand why project sponsors want to opt for the state density bonus law. Or they're just building projects that don't even meet the inclusionary housing requirements. And so I'm just going to give some examples of what that means. So, for example, on Judah Street, we have a project in District 4 where under base zoning, they would have be able to build only 6 units. Under Home SF, which they're hoping to use, they could build 20 units, 6 of which would be affordable. 2601 Van Ness Avenue, under current zoning, they would build 27 units, 0 affordable. They would fee out, but under Home SF, they could build 60 units with 18 being affordable. And just as another example, 2 Russia Avenue, under base zoning, they would build 8 units with 0 affordable. Under Home SF, they could build 26 units with 8 affordable units. So that just gives you a little snapshot of how we're really trying to drive more project sponsors to use our local density bonus program, Home SF, rather than the state density bonus law, or even just flat out not even meeting inclusionary requirements since they're building 10 units or less. And so that's how we arrived at this Home SF second version we're calling Home SF 2.0. And as we talked about in Land Use Committee, offering different tiers for project sponsors to be able to meet their affordability levels, which we originally set at 30%. So for today's purposes, I do have a couple of amendments that were suggested to us. I want to thank Peter Cohen and Fernando Marti. One of the amendments that they wanted us to include in here has to do with what they're calling a use it or lose it provision, which is that the Planning Commission approval would expire within 36 months of the date of the Planning Commission approval if a project sponsor hasn't procured a building permit or a site permit for construction. Again, within 36 months. And so we do believe that this will help us hopefully achieve more affordable housing faster. So we have that amendment that we're offering today. The other amendments that we are including in here have to do with the technical advisory committee that was convened for the inclusionary housing ordinance. And so we are asking the TAC when they reconvene and prior to January 1st of 2020 to study the indexing of Home SF rates. We are also asking the TAC to study a program that would differentiate between home ownership and rental units, which is how inclusionary is currently structured. And so those are, again, some of the changes that we are making today. But really, I want to thank, again, our planning department staff and my staff for working very hard on this legislation and, again, trying to drive more project sponsors to use this voluntary program. So I'd like to make a motion for those amendments.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Colleague, Supervisor Tang has made a motion. Do I have a seconded by Supervisor Safai? Can we take this item as amended?
Madam President, we have a different house. Supervisor
you're right.
Kim is off the floor.
All right, and Supervisor Ronan's also off the floor.
That's right.
All right, so what we'll need to do is we'll need to take a roll call vote.
On the motion made by Supervisor Tang and Madam President, the second again was
Supervisor Safai.
Supervisor Safai, Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim absent. Supervisor Mandelman. Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan absent. Supervisor Safai.
Aye.
Safai, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Chang, aye. Supervisor Yi. Yi, aye. Supervisor Brown.
Aye.
Brown, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. There are 9 ayes and 2 absences.
Thank you. The ordinance is passed on the first reading. All right.
Madam President, that was Supervisor Tang's motion.
That was her motion.
Yes.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Yes, on the amendments.
Yeah. Yes. And now on the item as amended, Madam President?
Supervisor Safai.
So I just wanted to say one quick thing before we take the final vote. I want to commend Supervisor Tang. I know that she spent a lot of time working on this over the last couple of years. It has been somewhat frustrating to see developers not opt into this program. I think this is a thoughtful amendment. This is a way to incentivize developers to choose this option over the density bonus program. I know there's a project in my district, for example, that we've been working on trying to incentivize them to do this program that would essentially create more affordable housing than under the density bonus program, as well as respect the character of the neighborhood and the wishes of the surrounding neighbors. So the new amendments that are made here are essentially give an option for density decontrol and or 1 floor and or 2 floors as she's described, and I think that's a very creative and thoughtful solution as a way to incentivize this as an option over the density bonus program. So I want to thank her and fully support this.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai. The House has changed. Just want to recognize Supervisor Ronan and Supervisor Kim. They're back. We made an amendment to this legislation, and I'd like to do a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Supervisor Kim is on the roster.
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Kim, I didn't see your name.
Thank you, President Cohen, and my apologies for missing the discussion on the motion. I just had a quick question. I know the motion to amend has already passed, but I was curious why it was what we call the use it or lose it clause is linked to the building permit or the site permit versus just one or the other. And if the sponsor could clarify that amendment.
Sure. So through the chair.
Yes, please.
So yes, we had heard concerns, and the reason why we added this amendment in here is because there was this fear that project sponsors would go and sell their entitlements or site permits and so forth. So I learned that at least in terms of the entitlements, there was no automatic expiration, and so it was suggested to us that we actually put in here, which is now really the strongest language there is in terms of an expiration after 36 months if a project sponsor hasn't obtained their building or site permits. Now, site permits are, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they are building permits which do expire after, I believe, 3 years, especially for the larger projects. So I believe that those are the ones that are more valuable, and so we are trying to tie all of it together to achieve, I think, what the original individuals who suggested this amendment to us for.
So actually, I understand the site permit, and I think that we have linked other clauses similar to this to the site permit. I was wondering why it was the building permit or the site permit. That was my specific question.
I thought it, sorry, I just gave my copy to the clerk, but I believe that it's, is it and or? Sorry, I would like, thank you.
So not all projects get site permits.
Supervisor Tang?
Yes.
Did you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just recognizing you.
Oh, sorry, I just had to get this copy back from, from the clerk. Got it. So are you saying through the chair to Supervisor Kim that you would like to say and?
Supervisor Kim, let me interject here for a second because this is a discussion on the amendment. Would you like to make a motion to amend the last action just so that we can further the discussion? If not,
Well, I don't want to make a motion to amend the motion until I understand the amendment, but maybe it's more appropriate for me to make a motion to rescind.
Rescind the vote, correct.
To rescind the vote.
excuse me, I meant rescind. So is that a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to rescind.
Is there a second on that motion? Is there a second to rescind? Supervisor Yee has made a second. All right. The motion has been rescinded. All right, now it's open for discussion.
My apologies.
That's okay.
And if the planning staff wanted to respond, because I know it's a technical question, I just wanted to understand why it was building permit or site permit versus just.
So building permits, or I'm sorry, site permit is what would expire automatically. Building permits do not, sorry. I will turn it over to Paolo Ikizoe from the planning department.
All right.
But essentially, I just want to speak to the goal of the amendment was to be the most broad as possible so that all of the different permits would expire if you hadn't filed for these. The planning commission authorization would expire after 36 months if you hadn't obtained any of these.
Okay.
Right. I think so. The site permit is the first thing you get after you get entitlements from the planning commission, and so I think the or would just sort of encompass all sort of the broadest definition of building permits that you might get. But I think really the site permit is what is intended to be the main trigger for. That's sort of the biggest thing you have to do after you get an entitlement if you are proceeding towards construction.
Yes. No, so I understand that. So I was curious why it wasn't just that has not procured a site permit, why we added the building permit to that language instead of just stating site permit, which has an expiration. The building permit just seems overly broad, actually. And do all of those permits have expirations?
I believe all the building permits do have expirations.
Okay, they do.
So I think my understanding of this amendment is that it's really, we're talking about the expiration of the planning entitlement and what should trigger that. And so
Right.
it's sort of the action of pulling the building permit that is that trigger.
So why isn't it just the site permit?
Supervisor Tang?
Through the chair to Supervisor Kim, I mean, we were just trying to be more all-encompassing. So keeping in mind that there are various permits that you have to pull that are related to the building.
Okay.
We just wanted to make sure that if you hadn't done any of those, that it would expire, or the planning commission approval would expire within 36 months, or after 36 months.
And is it building permit or site permit, whichever is pulled first? Because I'm just worried that you can pull a series of permits and that extends the 36 months. I think that was my concern. That each permit extends the 36-month toll.
So, from my understanding, I mean, again, planning department can speak to this much better, but there are different tiers for project, depending on the cost of your project. And then each will have the time allowed for you to perform your work. And then you can actually extend it even beyond what is allowed, the time allowed. So, here we are saying it will expire within 36 months, whereas the existing code or the tables are actually much more generous when it comes to both building and site permits.
Okay. I think I understand. So, I mean, it will be understood that it's just one of these permits has to be pulled within 36 months. I think I'm reading the language in it.
Or maybe this deputy city attorney can answer this, but I don't know if we were just trying to mirror language and existing code, so I wonder if we should just,
Deputy City Attorney John Givner.
I don't know if we're just making it more confusing, but essentially we mean building permit.
Right. I can't speak to all the differences between the timelines of site permits and building permits. The amendment here, you would lose your entitlement if you have not procured one or the other, a site permit or a building permit within the 36 months. That site permit or building permit language also appears a number of other times in the planning code. I think there's a provision in the inclusionary ordinance that the board adopted a couple years ago in section 415 that similarly uses site permit or building permit. I cannot tell you, I don't think this discussion was had during that debate.
No, I remember that, and I thought we only did one. I didn't think but we did both. So that was just clarifying my memory. That's helpful. And I just wanted to clarify again, and I apologize that I could not remember what we had included in our inclusionary ordinance. The building permits expire after 18 months, generally. Is that the case? And this is a question for the planning department.
So I apologize, as the building code is a whole separate code from the planning code, but I believe there's actually a table that has, so that it depends on the cost of the building permit that is being reviewed. And so the tables, so smaller projects with costs of less than, sorry, I'm just pulling up the table right now, of less than $100,000, from $1 to $100,000, must complete work within 360 days. Then the second tier is $100,000 to $2.5 million, which is 1,080 days, so about 3 years. And then projects of $2.5 million or above are for 1,440 days, so about 4 years.
Okay. And the site permit also expires?
That's the same. So the site permit is sort of the main building permit that you get,
Okay.
and then within that you get, you pull addenda as you
Okay.
can proceed.
Thank you.
And if I may, through the chair to Supervisor Kim as well, so just looking at the inclusionary section of the code, 415.3, again, 415, we just, again, mirrored the language. It wasn't like we were trying to do anything different.
I could not remember, so thank you.
It's in there.
Supervisor Ronan.
Yes, I actually had a very similar question to Supervisor Kim, and maybe I'm not fully understanding this either. So either to Supervisor Tang or Deputy City Attorney John Givner. So if a project sponsor pulled a site permit within 36 months, could they then just hold on for that a long time before getting building permits and breaking ground in order to extend the length of the entitlement? That's how I was reading it, and it was a concern, but maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Yeah,
John Gibson.
It may be that planning staff can answer that, but it sounds more actually like a question that DBI staff is best suited to answer about what steps you need to take and when following your building permit.
Or following your entire. So the idea is that 36 months after entitlements, if the project isn't breaking ground, then they lose the benefits that they've gained under HOMA-SEF. And so this language is really confusing maybe, and maybe it's the standard language, and I'm worried about something that's not, I don't need to be worried about. My worry is that because it's an or, there's a way to kind of game the system and pull the site permits within 36 months without really intending to build or get that thing that you need to put the shovel in the ground. And so if I'm worried about something that I don't need to be worried about, please let me know. But that's the concern that I had.
Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. Through the chair to Supervisor Ronan, I think we were trying to explain this earlier, but essentially, I think the concern and why we even have this amendment was to address that very concern.
Okay.
So building permits in itself will expire, and there are different varying levels of project costs and different amount of time that project sponsors will have to build or to use that building permit.
Okay.
This language that we had and why it says building permit or site permit literally mirrors section 415 of the code. And so that's why both are in there. Under the inclusionary ordinance, it said that if you didn't obtain a building permit or site permit within a certain period of time, you would get kicked over to the other rate for inclusionary housing. Here, we're saying that your planning commission approval will expire if you don't pull any of those permits within 36 months.
And generally, when you pull these permits, you have to start building within a certain period
Building
of time.
permits, yes, as I think.
Because they expire. Okay.
Various individuals, just try to explain, do
That's
have
helpful.
automatic expiration after a certain period of time, but we are here very specifically calling out the expiration of the Planning Commission approval.
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful.
All right, colleagues. So we made a motion to rescind the last vote. So perhaps we can have a new motion. Supervisor Tang, I'm looking at you. A new motion to amend your legislation.
Yes, I will make a new motion to amend the legislation.
All right, so the motion's been made by Supervisor Tang, and it's been seconded by Supervisor Kim. And colleagues, Madam Clerk, do we need a roll call vote on this? A roll call vote, please.
On the motion, Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Supervisor Mandelman. Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yi. Yi, aye. Supervisor Brown. Brown, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. There
All
are
right.
11 ayes.
Thank you very much. So the motion has passed. Now we've got an ordinance. Madam Clerk, do we need to take a vote on the ordinance for the first reading as amended?
Yes, Madam President.
All right, as amended. So, colleagues, can we take this same house, same call? All right, and the ordinance passes on the first reading. Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Madam Clerk, let's go to the committee reports.
Yes, items 27 through 29 were considered by the Budget and Finance Subcommittee at a regular meeting on Thursday, July 12th, 2018, and were forwarded as committee reports. Item 27 was recommended as amended with the same title. It is an ordinance to adopt a question to appear on the November 6th, 2018 ballot regarding the proposed ordinance to incur $425 million of bonded debt for the city to finance the construction, reconstruction, acquisition, improvement, demolition, seismic strengthening and repair of the Embarcadero seawall.
Excuse me, Madam Clerk, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just noticed that it's after 3 o'clock, so I believe we have a special order. Should we call item 23?
Yes, Madam President.
My apologies.
Certainly, no problem. Items 23 through 26 comprise the public hearing of persons interested in the certification of a final environmental impact report for the proposed Central Soma Plan dated May 10th, 2018, issued by the Planning Commission. Item 24 is a motion to affirm the department's certification of the final environmental impact report prepared for the proposed Central Soma Plan. Item 25 is the motion to conditionally reverse the department's certification, and item 26 is the motion to direct the preparation of findings.
All right, thank you. So, colleagues, we have before us today 4 appeals of the final environmental impact report for the proposed Central Soma project in District 6. Before considering these appeals, I'd like to give Supervisor Kim an opportunity to say a few words. Supervisor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Cohen. I will be making a motion to continue this appeal to the board meeting on September 4th, 2018. As members know that watched Land Use Committee today, after which I introduced 48 amendments. We still have another set of series of amendments to introduce the following Monday. It will require re-referral to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission does meet during our August recess, and then I hope to have the Central Soma plan back before the board in the fall. And so we're asking all the appellants to continue the appeal to the first board meeting of September.
All right, thank you. So, colleagues, seeing that these matters will be continued, let's open up for public comment on the continuance. Are there any members of the public that like to comment or wish to speak on the continuance only today? Please come on up. Please come to the microphone. And again, this is public comment on the continuance.
Hi, Laura Clark, Gimby Action. Welcome to our new supervisors. I just wanted to bring it to your attention, as we did at Land Use, that this will affect TNDC's affordable housing project. And I know that that's been brought to your attention, but I hope that we keep in mind this kind of financing difficulties when we add delays and unexpectedness. All projects are affected by this unpredictability, especially affordable housing, and TNDC is at risk right now.
Corey Smith on behalf of the Housing Action Coalition. Also welcome Supervisor Brown and Supervisor Mandelman. Echoing Laura's comments, and Supervisor Kim stated it yesterday during Land Use that she was going to reach out to TNDC about this specifically. We just want to make sure that these housing units get built. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public? Come on down.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Anjalka Kabande with SOMCAN. We also support the continuance. There's still a lot of things in the EIR that we have a lot of comments on that we would like more time to analyze and also work with our supervisor with, along with the city with. So we support this continuance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing that there are no other speakers, public comment is closed.
One more, Madam President.
Oh.
Teresa Flandrick, Senior and Disability Action. We also support the continuance. Thank you so much, Supervisor Kim.
All right, thank you. Public comment is closed. Supervisor Kim?
I just want to respond to the concern by members of the public on the TNDC 100% affordable housing project on 5th and Howard. It is true, due to a couple of financing mechanisms, they do have a drop deadline of December 2019 to begin construction, and they hope to get their full entitlements by March of 2019. This continuance will still allow them to meet that deadline, and we will certainly have to make sure that we pass the Central Soma plan in the fall.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so may I have a motion to continue these appeal items and the related motions to the Board of Supervisors meeting dated certain of September 4th? Did you? All right. Supervisor Kim has seconded that motion. She made the motion, seconded by Supervisor Peskin, and we can take that without objection. Without objection. Thank you. Items 23 through 26 are continued until September 4th. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Back to the committee reports, Madam President.
Thank you.
We were calling item 27. This adopts a question to appear on the November 6, 2018 ballot, authorizing to incur $425 million of bonded debt to finance the construction or reconstruction, improvement, demolition of and repair of the Embarcadero seawall and other critical infrastructure and related costs. And Madam President, this item has an 8-vote threshold as required by the Government Code 43607 and 43608.
All right, thank you. Colleagues, is there any discussion on this item, on item 7?
27, Madam
Excuse me, 27? Yeah. All right, well, can we take this same house, same call? Same house, same call. Ordinance passed on the first reading. Madam Clerk, call the next item.
Item 28 is an ordinance to amend the Park Code to permit the Recreation and Park Department General Manager to set all golf course fees and charges and to amend the department CEQA determination.
All right, can we take this same house, same call? All right, without objection. Next item.
Item 29 is an ordinance to approve the health service system plans and contribution rates for calendar year 2019. And Madam President, this item has a 9-vote threshold pursuant to Charter Section A8.422.
All right, colleagues, same house, same call? Without objection. Motion, ordinance passed on the first reading. Next item.
Item 30 was considered by the Land Use and Transportation Committee at a regular meeting on Monday, July 16th, and was not forwarded as a committee report.
So since this item wasn't forwarded to the board, Madam Clerk, let's call the next item. No action is needed on this.
Item 31 was considered by the Rules Committee at a special meeting on Monday, July 16th, 2018, and was forwarded as a committee report. It is a charter amendment, second draft, to amend the charter of the City and County of San Francisco to adopt a privacy-first policy at an election to be held on November 6th, 2018. I believe you know, Madam President, that this item must be continued to July 24th.
That is correct. Supervisor Peskin?
I just want to thank the committee members and the co-sponsors, Supervisors Yee, Ronan, Kim, and Fewer, as well as the Rules Committee members for forwarding this with recommendation, and would ask for a vote to continue this as required by the charter because it has to sit 1 week here at the board.
All right, the motion has been made by Supervisor Peskin. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Yee. Thank you very much. Colleagues, on the question of continuing the charter amendment by 1 week, we can approve this, same house, same call? All right, without objection, the charter amendment is continued to the July 24th meeting. Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
Yes, first up to introduce new business is Supervisor Fewer.
I submit.
Thank you. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you. Last week, Supervisor Yee and I introduced an ordinance to validate Proposition C and F to ensure the commencement of these two incredibly important revenue programs. And today, Supervisor Yee and I are introducing the Business and Tax Regulation Code and administration of the Early Care and Education Commercial Rent Tax. This is the administrative code to allow the Treasurer's Office to begin collecting this tax in January of 2019. I just want to thank our voters for the passage of Proposition C, which is going to bring in $145 million to early child care and early childhood education. This is, according to Supervisor Yee, the nation's single largest investment ever in childcare, and I'm so proud that the City and County of San Francisco was a part of this. And just to put this into context, because I have to repeat this over and over again to many of our supporters, as momentous as Free City College was, this program is 20 times larger in scope and size. And so what we are going to be providing to our youngest residents and also to our working families here in the City and County of San Francisco is really going to is going to keep San Francisco as a leader in pre-K and early childhood education, and is really going to revolutionize the lives of our families. We are investing in the workforce productivity of our families and our workers, and ensuring that our youngest residents get the best educational opportunities before they even begin kindergarten. And for those of us in the education world, we know that the quote-unquote achievement gap or opportunity gap begins before a child even walks into their first day of kindergarten, and that early childhood education and child care is the answer and solution to make sure that our children are starting out on an equal footing. It is unfortunate that in San Francisco, and in fact in 30 out of 50 states, tuition at the average child care program now costs more than tuition at their public four-year university. And in fact, the average child care in San Francisco is anywhere between $18,000 to $23,000, and that is just the average. We also know that our child care workers are often the most underpaid workers here in our city, and it is no coincidence that the vast majority of these workers are women and women of color and immigrant women. So this revenue measure is going to ensure that we increase the number of slots available to our family, both 100% subsidized, and for the first time ever, will include subsidies for middle-class families that make up to 200% of the average median income, while also raising the wages of our early childhood education workers. And for our partners in labor, we did ensure that this would come with a card check provision for those that opted into our program. Finally, I just want to add that and provide my thanks to our partners in labor. 15% of Proposition C will be going towards our general fund, and we know that our labor partners have been looking forward to raising the wages of our lowest paid city workers. This will net about $22 million on a general fiscal year, and we hope and look forward to dedicating these dollars to our lowest paid city workers. As our minimum wage has risen to $15 an hour, we want to ensure that our city workers are making slightly above this amount. So I want to thank September Jarrett, the entire Office of Early Child Care and Education, the Controller's Office, as well as our city attorneys who are helping to get this program implemented as soon as possible. And of course, many thanks to my partner, Supervisor Norman Yee, who has really been leading on the expenditure plan and bringing together our child care and early childhood education community to ensure that we can implement this as smoothly as possible.
Thank you, Supervisor
Thank
Kim.
you.
Supervisor Yee, did you want to say a
Yes,
few words? Okay.
if it's okay to follow up. Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Supervisor Yee?
Thank you. I want to make sure
I got
get
you're
permission. I was
acknowledged.
raising my hand. Thank you, Supervisor Kim, for your partnership on this historic passage of early education for all initiative. As you know, San Francisco has led the way for many years now with the preschool piece of it, with our Preschool for All program, in which we were the first in the nation to have such a program for the 4-year-olds. And years later, many other locations, cities, and actually some states follow suit with the same concept. So with the passage of this initiative, I'm hoping that once again San Francisco will be the leaders in this nation in really addressing the issues of how do we serve the 0 to 3 and give them even a better head start. As all of you know, this has been my life's work to promote the issue of quality early care and education for over 4 decades. So it should be of no surprise how excited and eager I am to move forward with this groundbreaking investment to support our city's youngest residents, their family, and the early care educators who are so dedicated to their work. Quite honestly, I think this is long overdue. For far too long, we have overlooked and underfunded early care and education, especially for infants and toddlers ages 0 to 3. In the past 2 years, we have made great strides in pushing the envelope with the formation of the Infant and Toddler Scholarship Fund and the initial seed funding allocated by us, the Board of Supervisors. And now with the support of the San Francisco voters, we have what will be the largest investment for early care and education in the nation's history. There are 3,000 children under the age of 5 on a wait list that are low income, and more than half are infants and toddlers. We can start eliminating this wait list and expanding care for moderate income families, as Supervisor Kim had mentioned. The other major factors that we need to highlight is how the early care and education workforce is so under-supported. 94% of this workforce are women, and the vast majority are women of color. More than half of these educators have college degrees. They are the lowest paying of any profession requiring degree attainment. Yet, despite the low wages, most of our providers and educators stay in the field because of the commitment. With our initiative, we will finally be able to lift the wages of these incredible educators and ensure that our children will have fully staffed, qualified, or quality care. As Supervisor Kim illustrated, families are struggling to find accessible, affordable, quality care and often are forced to make difficult decisions. Beyond the importance of stable, quality care and its impacts on families' ability to stay in the workforce or to stay in San Francisco, early care and education is so much more than that. We need to start looking at this issue from a different perspective. Early care and education as a way to counter systemic and generational poverty and the trauma that is often connected to these families' lived their experiences, life experiences. We spend so much of our attention and, frankly, our city's budget on intervention, which is not to say it's not important work, but let us not overlook the value of prevention. If we want to see positive, healthy outcomes for our youth and our communities, regardless of social economic status, the work starts before a child is even born, and the first 5 years of the child's life are absolutely critical for the negative and social economic development. I'm sorry, not negative, but cognitive and social economic development. It can shape their destiny. This investment is invaluable as we are preventing the need for many of the interventions just by establishing a strong foundation for children and their ability for their families who will finally be able to access affordable quality education for their child. I want to recognize the army of volunteers from the child care community who came out to support the initiatives despite the cynical attempts to sink the measure. I also want to thank, as Supervisor Kim has already, Director September Jarrett and her staff at the Office of ECE, and for all of their ongoing work. I also want to thank the City Attorney's Office and the Controller, and especially my staff, Eric Mayborn, who really worked tirelessly to make this happen. Next week, I will be introducing, along with Supervisor Kim, more guidance on how we will work with the Office of ECE to implement the programmatic aspect of this funding. And then I will say right now that the rest I will submit.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Yee. Supervisor Mandelman. Can I just? Okay, thank you. Supervisor Peskin.
Submit.
Supervisor Kim, I see your name on the roster. Is that by design?
Yes, I just
Okay.
forgot to add one more thank you. I forgot to thank our members of the board, Supervisor Peskin, Ronan, Fewer, and Mandelman, for supporting Proposition C, as well as our legislative aides, Ivy Lee and Erica Maybaum. I don't think we underscored this enough, but over $2 million was spent against Proposition C, and we spent a little over $300,000. I'm really proud that we were able to make this happen for our residents, and I want to thank all of our voters again.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you. In the past few years, there have been a number of fires in multi-unit buildings that have led to many people being displaced and, in a few tragic cases, people losing their lives. The most horrendous fire in recent years in my district was the one at 22nd and Mission in 2015, where 58 men, women, and children were displaced. Tenants have told us that access to fire escapes were locked and that the alarm system didn't work. Many of these survivors are low-income people who were already struggling to make it in San Francisco. One person also tragically died. Today, this building is nothing but a hole in the ground, and people have not been able to return. I am introducing legislation today that provides the city with a strong mechanism to force landlords to keep their tenants safe, and that I hope will prevent tragic fires like the one at 22nd and Mission in the future. Negligent landlords need to understand that if they do not take the life safety of their tenants seriously, then there are clear and expensive consequences. Specifically, my legislation amends the fire, building, and housing codes to make clear that if a landlord has multiple fire violations, does not quickly remedy issues, and repeatedly allows for the same major fire hazards to continue, then the city can issue a requirement that they install a brand new sprinkler system or a brand new fire alarm system. The landlord would not be permitted to raise the rent on the tenants to pay for the installation, and if the landlord refuses to comply, he or she can be fined up to $1,000 a day in civil penalties. I believe this will act as a deterrent because landlords will not want to incur these significant costs and will therefore be incentivized to keep their buildings safe. We need more tools to protect tenants from fire, and I believe this is an important step in the right direction. I would like to thank the many people who worked on this legislation with my office, starting with Carolyn Goosen, who's been working on these issues for years. Also, a very special thank you to Rosemary Bosque, who retired last week, and this, I think, was her last piece of legislation that she put her print on. She helped us develop this concept, and as usual, I'm always grateful to her. To Jamie Sanbanmatsu at the Department of Building Inspections for working with us. to the fire department staff and especially Fire Marshal Dan DeCasio for your support. And finally, I want to thank the members of the Anti-Displacement Coalition for your work on developing this legislation, especially Joseph Smook and Tommy Avicola Mecca at the Housing Rights Committee and Rose Maria Calvalho at the Tenderloin Housing Clinic. And then I'm very excited to be co-sponsoring my first piece of legislation with my new colleague, Rafael Mandelman. Thank you for your co-sponsorship, Supervisor Mandelman. I'm also will be introducing the in memoriam on behalf of Carlos Gutierrez and wanted to see if I could do that on behalf of the whole board.
Absolutely. Colleagues, could we take that in memoriam on behalf of the entire board? All right, without objection.
Thank you. The rest I submit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ronan. Supervisor Safai. Thank you. Supervisor Stephanie. Thank you. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. Welcome to our newest colleague, Supervisor Mendelman and Supervisor Brown. Really exciting to be able to work with both of you. And today I'm submitting legislation to amend our health code as it pertains to massage businesses. As many of you know, I've been working on legislation to give our Department of Public Health more tools to work with when it comes to enforcing massage establishments. Over the course of the years, the department actually found that there were quite a few other things that they wanted to address. And so I'm just carrying legislation on behalf of the department to institute more both cleanup as well as giving them other tools that they feel is necessary to help them do their job better in enforcing massage establishments. And the rest I will submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Yee's already submit. And Supervisor Brown? Submit. Okay, thank you. And Madam President Cohen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll submit as well.
Okay, thank you. Madam President, that concludes the introduction of new business.
All right, thank you very much. All right, folks, it's time for public comment. Madam Clerk, can you please call public comment?
At this time, the public may now address the entire Board of Supervisors for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, to include the mayor's appearance, the June 12th, 2018 board meeting minutes, and items 34 through 38 on the adoption without reference to committee items. Public comment is not allowed when an item has been previously subject to public comment at a board committee. Pursuant to the board's rules, please direct your remarks to the board as a whole, not to individual members of the board, not to the audience. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the time. If you would like to display your document on the overhead projector, please state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when you'd like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting. And Magic, the floor is yours.
Thank you. These are critical times. We need to work together to stay grounded in our compassionate heart. When people speak about losing their homes, their jobs, their son being killed, and they look out to see all of your faces staring at screens, they don't feel seen or heard. I want to say that today I was very heartened by the full attention of the board during the honoring of Carlos. This problem is prevalent in our culture, and we can change this dynamic by spending this one day a week truly being present and accountable to one another. We raise energy to make things happen when we show our understanding and concern for the person speaking. When you were running for office, you could feel the enthusiasm of the public when you expressed your determination to serve the people. Now you are elected representatives, and now it is your duty to be attentive to our words. No one feels heard when people are staring at their screens. I've heard many people address their frustration at their representatives being disrespectful in this way. I'm not singling you out. We are all caught in this dilemma, and we must rise above it. Still, we have, the interesting thing I find is that we seem to have lost the ability to manifest our vision of a healthy, just, and peaceful society to the level we used to, because our experience in the present moment, where all things actually occur, is constantly being interrupted by our endless attention to our screens. We cannot raise energy around crucial issues when you do not give us the basic courtesy of looking at us when we speak. What has happened to us as a society that we do not give each other this basic respect? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please, Mr. Wright.
You got your documents? Sure. Oh, okay.
I've already been up here well over several times demonstrating that a minimum of $217 billion in payroll taxes have been given to Twitter, and used to be 5, but now it's 9 high-tech companies. Now we got a situation on our hands where it's documented that other cities are moving to charge for payroll taxes and not giving these breaks. Twitter is a multi-quadruple trillion billion-dollar corporation. They don't need a break. London Breed went around the Tenderloin and other areas of the city and watched people who are economically disadvantaged, got a combination of both mental and physical disabilities. Those are the people that need tax breaks. According to this document that I got here on the screen, it shows how that's a misunderstood fact and not established fact. As the rate of taxes on regular taxes rise, payroll tax falls, a system meant to keep the city revenue level. The only reason you got millions in your bank account, your city funds now, is because of the tax breaks that's been cut by the President of the United States. Also, it also says that in general, you would expect payroll tax is not the least thing for job growth. If you can shift from that, then you can get some increases in jobs and some wages. Now, disparities. You got 2 different situations where black people are being discriminated against. It started not only with our slavery, but also in the year 1963 by this white-skinned colored male by the name of Justin Herman. This apartment building in the background, I believe it's the same building that Lyndon Breed lived in when she was a kid. And her income was $900 a month. And those are the income of the people that's in housing, that's out, not field in housing, that's out in the street now that need to be taken care of.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I'm Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. Congratulations to the new supervisors. Our city prides itself on being humane, progressive, welcoming, and a sanctuary. But there are city agencies that, through their actions, are reversing those values, are doing things that are not so humane, not progressive, not safe, and not welcoming. As an example, San Francisco Public Library, by its planned installation of radio frequency identification tags into books and other materials, will be making what people read less private. It will make where they go with those materials trackable by anyone with access to the technology without the knowledge of or consent of those people. The American Civil Liberties Union of Northern California and the Electronic Frontier Foundation have sent joint letters to the city librarian strongly opposing the installation of this technology. Second, the library also plans shortly to cut 15 evening hours from branches, even though its own surveys of its own users have shown that the thing that they most want is more evening hours. And finally, the library, as an example, the library excludes thousands of people who owe $10.01 or more to the library and can no longer borrow or reserve materials from other library systems. That is just wrong. We're concerned about a fee-based late fines and fees system that hurts poor people the most. I'll be sending more information to you shortly. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Story number 3. Byron Gill works for the city of San Francisco as a gardener. He has that job for 23 years. He's the go-to guy at Reckin Park when it had to do with gardening. He was asked to train a new employee. Gill is a black man. The new employee is a white woman. For 2 years, he trained her. Gil came into work one day to discover she is now his boss. This is not right. Gil filed a complaint, and the complaint was rejected on a ridiculous claim. Gil had to prove he was the best black gardener in the city of San Francisco to prevail. I hope that you take my issues of blacks being discriminated against seriously. I'm going to be telling you 10 stories. And I'm not doing this just for my health. Also, as I'm speaking, the chief of Juvenile Hall is closing Log Cabin Ranch. And the reason why is because the people up there don't know how to protect and educate our own wayward kids.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, President Cohen and supervisors. My name is David Smith, and I am an RN graduate of City College, and in a month's time will complete my Master of Science in Nursing and begin my Doctor of Nursing Practice Studies at University of San Francisco. I wish to express my robust support for PrEP, or pre-exposure prophylaxis for HIV, and the sea change it represents in the battle against the HIV pandemic. I have been an out gay man since 1980 and have been witness to the full continuum of this disease. Perhaps the proudest moment of my life was being a study participant in the final clinical trials of Truvada as PrEP in 2009 and 2010, playing a part in the beginning of the end of the pandemic, has incredible significance for me. It is now possible to imagine a generation free of HIV. I'm very pleased to see the increasing media campaign across the city educating the public on the use of PrEP. That being said, I do wish to sound a cautionary note. I feel it is imperative that we continue to encourage the use of safer sex practices, including condom usage, especially for casual sexual encounters. As a 25-year member of the SF-LGBT community, I have observed a marked shift in attitudes, particularly with the widespread introduction of PrEP. PrEP is being seen by a significant number of people as licensed to abandon condom usage for all sexual encounters. As an RN, I know that we are now facing antibiotic-resistant sexually transmitted infections, including gonorrhea and syphilis. There have already been isolated reports of untreatable cases completely resistant to even the most potent antibiotics. To prevent a pandemic of an entirely different nature, condom usage in concert with PrEP for casual sexual encounters must continue to be encouraged. If you have any questions, I'm available to respond now or after the meeting.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to come before you. My name is Cynthia Montez. I live at 201 Harrison Street. There is a project that is underway that we have filed an appeal for, in which the Board of Supervisors will be hearing in the next couple of weeks. I want to make it clear that I'm not here against the project being built. I'm against what the design is right now, as well as the environmental impact that it's going to have on the residents at 201 Harrison Street. This project was brought before this committee in 2009 and was sent back to the planning department, San Francisco Planning Department, by you all. We do not believe that the San Francisco Planning Department has met the obligations that it was requested by you. the appeal that we have went before the Planning Commission we had 3 hearings with the commission. And in the second hearing, the commissioners told the developer, we want you to do a different design, and we want you to do a feasibility study, and they gave them the criteria by which to do that design. When the developer came back, they did not do what the commissioners had requested. They did not come back with a set of plans that met the criteria what they were asked for. And in spite of that, the commissioners voted, even though they did not have the plans in front of them, they voted on a set of plans that did not exist. And basically what you're going to hear is it was a cutout of...
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Next speaker, please.
I have some information. Can I hand it out?
Yes, the sergeant will come pick that up from you right now.
What it consists of is an environmental consulting report by Richard Grassetti and also Trinity Consultant Environmental Report. Hi, my name is Dane Entz. I'm a resident of 201 Harrison Street. And Baycrest is naturally occurring affordable housing. It was originally contemplated as an affordable apartment rental. And then was later converted into condominiums. This project has 3 large open space courtyards that face towards the southeast. And these courtyards were designed at the time because the Planning Commission was aware of the highly sensitive area that these residents were going to be placed in. And subsequently in 2009, a bunch of us had to come and talk to you folks on a CEQA appeal, and our appeal based on the fact that the planning department did not do their job properly was upheld 10 to 0. Now, we're going to be appearing before you again, and the reason that we're going to be appearing before you again is that the planning department still has not properly engaged in the activities that they should have been engaging in. So I do want to stress that what we're trying to do is to find a win-win solution here where we can have housing that's built that's properly mitigated. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Tom Gilberti. Last week I showed my age in the Judeo-Christian tradition about Adam wanting a recliner and a remote multi-screens. A younger man would probably want the ultimate game station and have a one-to-one relationship playing God in the games that they could play. Adam would be very happy. World Cup, for all its administrative faults and corruption, much like the Olympics, much like Wells Fargo, PG&E, the game is amazing. The U.S. came to it, the World Cup late. The U.S. came to the United Nations. We're still waiting for them to come. But the game, my team lost in a fair game. The next game was England and Croatia, and the referee did not call fouls. So the game was not as good. It wasn't a fair game. And the world, in the final, the same team that caused all the fouls started right off. They forgot about touching the ball. They went for the foot. The referee called the game. The game was much better. That's what we do here. We call the rules, the regulations, and we call the fouls. Turner Classic Movies had Casablanca playing during the World Cup, and at the end of it, for the for the ceremony, they had Singing in the Rain. I also want to remember that Mario Woods is a sculpture with 5 police officers pointing their guns at him. I would like to place that sculpture on the right and the left side of 850 Bryant, the entrance. And when we demolish 850 Bryant, that sculpture comes down. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. After Mr. Washington, just pause for a moment. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board during general public comment? Now's your opportunity to get into line. Please proceed, Mr. Washington.
Last name I don't remember, but I do call you Angela. You're welcome to call me Ace anytime you like, because I'm certainly in your place. But I'm in a place people known as City Hall. But today, y'all all know it. I call it Silly Hall. But I'm here also to commend Valley being appointed by London Breed. Even though I don't agree, but I'm here to support you. And they know, you know, I know.
Address the board as a whole, please.
As a whole, yes. Not a whole, but as a whole. My name is Ace. Welcome to the City Hall. You've been here just about as long as I have. I'm here to say, number one, I must talk to a supervisor that ain't scared to go against it. I want a total investigation on the press room. There's no black media there. Yours truly, I'm looking like a clown and looking like Mr. Goo, but y'all know what I do. I've been doing this longer than anybody, including Peskin. I was here before Peskin. Although he's a master politician, so is London, and so is our sitting president. They're all masters at maneuvering, and all part of politics. But you know what I call it? Politricks. Politicking is politricking. And it all depends on who you're picking. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ace. I'm here to support anything that's for our community, particularly in the Western Addition. Our supervisor, current one, got 90 days. I said 60, but 90 because I know it. To prove, not only to me, but to our community that you're going to move us forward, not backwards. I got 29 seconds, so what should I do? Tell everybody, Ace on the case, be at City Hall if you need to get in contact with me. Dial 415-525-0358. That's how you get in contact with Ace. Anyway, my loved one is watching. How you doing, sweetheart? But let me just say this. I ain't new to this. I'm true to this. And I'm finna do just what y'all doing, politricking. Welcome to City Hall, y'all.
Thank you, Ace. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, President Cohen, good afternoon. My name is Winship Hilliard. I'm an involuntary psychiatric outpatient treatment patient in this city, and I have been for over a decade. Last time I spoke to you about O'Connor versus Donaldson. 15 years after that, in 1990, the Supreme Court decided a case, Washington versus Harper. This is about involuntary medication. A number of state courts had concluded that patients who are involuntarily detained because they are dangerous or are gravely disabled due to mental illness have the capacity to make treatment decisions. And it has since been confirmed by the largest study ever, the MacArthur Treatment Competence Study, that mental patients have capacity to make treatment decisions equal to or comparable to non-mental patients, other medical patients. So, not all mental patients, oh, somebody's left their phone here.
You got free time on my TV show. Isn't that something? You ain't even got to pay for it.
As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, you are funding citywide case management, and you are funding forced drugging of patients who are not even dangerous due to mental illness, let alone lacking the capacity to give informed consent to treatment. This is not compatible with rule of law. It is not becoming of you if you pass laws on one hand and then you fund inequity on the other. This is government by doctors, not by laws. Madam Clerk.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to address the board during general public comment? Please line up.
I just want to make sure I'm talking during the right time. I came to talk about the Central Soma plan. Is this later to be talked about? Or?
Sir, that item has been continued to September 4th.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next speaker, please.
Oh, welcome, supervisors. It's a difficult city at times. I'm pleased, though, on this occasion that this occasion finds Democrats and Republicans finally taking one stand, ironically, through national opposition against yet another divisive piece of progressive legislation. I'm wondering if local progressives, having stripped November's election of their own anti-federal initiative ordinance, might leave us all to hope that although we may feel deprived of that vote, our representatives may still be compelled to renounce whatever principles lead them to extend their name and reputation along with 100 others in a reckless call to abolish a federal law enforcement agency. I believe local political luminaries, Libby Schaaf, Bevan Duffy, Rebecca Kaplan, David Chu, and Scott Wiener, unfortunately, have some explaining to do, and I'd prefer they stood by their political convictions if they are willing to and able. Otherwise, they appear enfeebled. Otherwise, it looks like hypocrisy. Is it any wonder Republicans dominate the California House and Senate as well as those in Washington?
Thank you for your comments. Madam President.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please read the items without... Thank you. Are there any additional members of the public who'd like to address the board during general public comment? All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Madam Clerk, let's keep moving forward. Let's go with the adoption without committee reference calendar.
Items 34 through 38 are being considered for adoption without committee reference. A single roll call vote may enact an item. Otherwise, if a member would like to have an item severed and considered separately, you may do that.
All right, colleagues, I'd like to sever item 35. Sir, any other items to be severed? Okay. Well, those items can be adopted with when the motion is made. Is there a motion to adopt? All right. Motion made by Supervisor Aronin. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Kim. Thank you. This is on the balance of the list of agenda items. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please call the next item?
Item 35 is a motion to approve Final Map 8615, a 6-unit residential condominium project located at 2468A-2472B Bush Street. Madam President.
Thank you. So DPW has indicated that they need more time to work on this map. So may I have a motion to continue this item for 1 week? Made by Supervisor Yee, seconded by Supervisor Ronan. Madam Clerk, I believe that, Madam Clerk, we will take that without objection.
To July 24th.
To July 24th. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda.
That's correct. That's correct, Madam President.
Will you please read the in memoria?
Yes, today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individual. At the suggestion of Supervisor Ronan, on behalf of the entire Board of Supervisors, for Mr. Carlos Gutierrez.
Thank you very much. Is there any further business before this body?
That concludes our business for today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.